And we're back. Today's episode, I want to talk about how to not embarrass yourself in front of a podcast guest that you would be interviewing. And the reason I bring this up is it might seem like really basic information, but I think it's necessary for some people to know. And I'm seeing some podcasts where the host is sitting down to interview somebody and they've done little to no research on that guest. And it's kind of embarrassing when they're like, so what have you been up to recently? You're on this show, or you do have a podcast, and they have all of those things. And it's embarrassing to show that you as a host are not knowledgeable about who you're even bringing onto your show. And I understand that it's time consuming to do research on people, and you might think to yourself, well, I'm actually better off the cuff. I promise you're not. Do some kind of basic level research. And here's some really easy ways to do it. Number one, just do a very high level view of their social media. Check their Twitter, check their LinkedIn, check their Instagram, or even their Facebook, if that's the social media that they're using the most. Find out what they talk about, what they've been up to recently. People like to post their wins online. A lot of people spend most of their waking time on social media. So you'll get a pretty good idea of who they are as a person and what they're up to just by checking their social media. Look online at their company, check out their team page, see exactly what their role is. There might be some accomplishment. People list out their accomplishments on their team page. They worked at X company, they worked at Y company, they won these awards. These are all things that you can talk with them about during the interview. Check them out on YouTube. See if they're doing any kind of video content. If someone were interviewing me for a podcast, I would hope that they'd go to my YouTube channel and see the type of content that I'm putting up. And that way we can have a really in-depth discussion on something that I'm super knowledgeable about, rather than the host having to dig during the interview for it at the very top. Instead, you know those things beforehand and you can really tee them up for something awesome to talk about. If they have a podcast, listen to an episode or two of their podcast, or even better yet, listen to episodes where they've been the guest on other podcasts. See where they really thrive in interviews. See the types of questions that maybe perhaps they struggle in, so you can avoid those topics or types of questions. And probably the best tip that I can give is look for that home run story, that home run hook, a story that they're really great at telling, and you've heard it through listening to them guest on other podcasts. Likely your audience isn't going to transfer over to other shows that they've been on, and this may be the first time they're hearing of this person. And if they have a really amazing story that they tell really well and it's super interesting and draws the listener in, make note of that when you hear it in other interviews and have them tell it on your show. Ultimately, you want to use these resources to find 2 to 4 really interesting things or accomplishments that this person has done relatively recently. Maybe they've published a book and that's why they're coming on your podcast. You want to know a lot about that book. Ideally, maybe you've read that book. Maybe they've launched a podcast, again, a YouTube channel, and you've consumed some of that content so you can offer some kind of insight on top of the value that they're adding by being able to talk about it themselves. Maybe they just got a promotion. Maybe they started their own company. Know these things about them. So you already feel like you know this person a little bit. Even if it's your first time officially meeting and speaking with them, you have that common ground to share and you feel like you can queue up great questions for them that's going to offer valuable insight to your audience. Again, this seems like really basic level stuff, but it's really, really necessary to do. I'm not saying that you have to create a 10-page outline filled with 100 questions to ask them, but even just a skeleton outline, having a basic knowledge of this person and what they've accomplished over their career is just going to make the interview flow so much better, and it's going to make the episode turn out way better than if you were just sitting down and going, all right, let's learn about this person. I hope this was valuable to you. If it was, please consider subscribing. You can also follow the show on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. Thank you for tuning in, and I'll see you next week.